You make your own luck. You make your own luck. There is no such thing as a lucky person.
Yep.
You make your own luck.
Yep.
Some bloke goes and wins the lotto. It's very rare that it's his first ticket he's ever bought.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kyl Reber podcast. This time we get to do one in person. So this podcast, as we all know, is very much geared towards famous people who are famous to me, famous to other people, but to maybe some of us, we have no idea who we are talking to. But by the end of this, you're going to know this person really well. I often refer to people in life as mentors, and this person is definitely a mentor. I met him as a scrappy, wide-eyed 19-year-old kid who thought he knew everything and quickly learned in inner city Brisbane that he knew nothing. And this guy took me under his wing, and taught me the ropes. And I'm very grateful that after 30 odd years, we are still thick as thieves. So Kas Seden, welcome, my friend.
Thanks, Kyle.
Kas got the usual. He got the 10 questions. He got the run through. He got how we work through this podcast. And just Kas, something just straight away. We did a series of podcasts during COVID that I called the COVID Conversations, and you came on board for that. Do you know that out of the 22 or 20, whatever it was, COVID conversations I did, do you know yours was the most viewed?
Really?
And I think that's because, and something that we'll find out, you tell a really good story.
Yeah.
You tell a good story. I think it's something that you've just always done, and we'll talk about it more. But yeah, Kas got the 10 questions. They're a bit out of the box, some of them. Was there any that you struggled with?
Not really. Oh, I guess some of them were like, okay, where do we go with this? Do I answer this in a serious way, or do I answer this in a bit more of a jovial way?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I kind of did a bit of a mix of both throughout it, and we'll kind of cross each one as we come to it.
We'll wing it. So we'll get started straight away. Birth to now. This is never 7 minutes.
No. I'll keep it down.
Number one, birth to now in 7 minutes. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. So born in 1961. That's a long time ago. Born in 1961 here in Brisbane, to a mixed family, Torres Strait Island father and a German mother, and brought up in Brisbane. First school that I went to was Hendra. I was there for a short while, primary school, from Hendra to Spring Hill, and Spring Hill to New Farm. So 3 primary schools.
Spring Hill and New Farm. So Spring Hill, for those who don't know, is like inner city Brisbane. Yeah. New Farm back then, sort of next door to the valley. That would have been a little bit wildish.
It was. So Hendra was a mainstream suburb, like a middle of the road suburb. Spring Hill was inner city, one side of the valley. It was actually a very low socioeconomic area. Nowadays, it's real estate that you'd be flat out getting into. Very, very expensive. Same with New Farm. New Farm was low socioeconomic, and that's what we were living in. Big family, both parents working, poor family with a lot of kids. And so that's where we were. So we moved from those suburbs. Earlier days before school, we lived on Bishop Island. Bishop Island doesn't exist anymore. It was at the mouth of the Brisbane River, a man-made island made by Captain Bishop, the dredge captain. And in the 40s and 50s, it was a place where there was a dance hall there. The Hales cruisers went down the river. They had
never heard of Bishop Island.
I'll show you a photo of it later. we were brought up there, and this little island.
So it literally doesn't exist anymore.
No. So what happened was they filled in from Fisherman's Island all the way out to Bishop Island and encompassed it in the port of Brisbane. So the tip of the port of Brisbane is the outside of Bishop Island. It had a light station on it, and it was a light beacon for ships coming into the Brisbane River. A Harbours Marine House and a few houses on there, and we lived there as kids till we had to move on to the mainland to go to school. My dad was working on the prawn trawlers and stuff like that. So yeah, so school was there. High school, we were still living in New Farm, but went to high school at Kelvin Grove, which was a big school, and then later on we moved over to Paddington. I was still at school at Kelvin Grove. Finished school, year 12 finished. My brother, David, older brother, and we went walkabout, and it was a bit of a strange thing. We just like packed up. He bought this old Ford Zephyr, old beaten up grey Ford Zephyr, and we jumped in it and we took off. I was too young to have a license, but I was driving a bit and he was driving a bit, and those days you could get away with it. And left Brisbane. We ended up just south of Cooktown.
So what are we talking now?
This is the
late
78,
Yeah.
77, 78. Yeah, got up to south of Cooktown, made our way to a place called Archer Point, which is now a national park. In those days, it was just bush. And we had a couple of jungle hammocks, so like a hammock with mosquito net on them and a little tarp roof, hanging in trees on the beach, and just squatted there for a few months, eating whatever we could shoot or catch, and just had a rifle and a fishing rod.
You've got kids now.
Yeah.
If your kids at 17 had said,
Yeah.
I'm going to go do this, would you have like gone,
No.
What are you thinking?
Strangely enough, I'd let them go.
You'd let them go?
I would. And we brought our kids up camping, and we'd get our boat, throw the 4 kids in it and the dog, go down to jumping pen. And I had a little clearing on Crusoe Island. Imagine that. And we had a little clearing there, and we used to set up there, and we wouldn't take any meat. And it was a game. It was like Survivor, the Sedens. And we'd go there. And if you didn't catch fish or crabs or squid or whatever, you didn't eat meat. We ate rice and some damper. They always caught fish. And my daughter has said to us now that she's got kids, were you a good parent? You let us play with fire and swim in shark-infested waters. Yes, we did. Maybe we weren't good parents, I don't know, but that's what we did, And David and I went there. We just lived there for a few months. And when we got bored of that, we came back to Brisbane. I got an apprenticeship back here once I got back,
With you've always been an approachable guy. You'll just talk, like we said earlier, you'll talk to anyone. High school years, like I would imagine you would have been the guy at school that everyone, like you were friends with everybody.
I was very social, but
Were you a school guy? Was school for you?
No, I wasn't academic. I went there because my father had drummed into us that we need an education and we need to better ourselves and we need to.
So you finished grade 12?
Yeah, well, I didn't. I pulled out a couple of months before the end of grade 12 to get a job, and the job fell through. And then
so many kids in that era would have finished at grade 10 if gone to high school at all.
Yes, that's right. But yeah, I pulled out just before the end of grade 12. As I say, I got offered a job and it didn't happen. And so David and I took off. And I came back, I got an apprenticeship in the printing industry. And part of that apprenticeship, before the apprenticeship, it was a traineeship, and I was going into town and doing this training in town and over at Kangaroo Point at the TAFE. And I was living out of home with some friends at Stafford, but every week I'd come home to my mum's place and at Paddington and have dinner there on a Thursday night. So I'd go into town, I'd catch the bus back to her place, have dinner there, and then I'd drive home back to Stafford. And I was a kid, 19. One day I jumped on a bus there, saw a girl on the bus, fell in love. married her a couple of years later, and that was 1982. I married her, and yeah, we had our 42nd wedding anniversary last week. Yeah,
I didn't know you'd met Jen that.
yeah, I met her. We were kids. It was like that song, Ed Sheeran song. You know,
Yeah.
we were just kids when we fell in love, and it was like that. And so we've been together ever since. Did my trade, became a tradesman in the printing industry, and had 4 kids. Had a passion for cars, so I was always building cars, working on cars, restoring cars.
Mm-hmm.
Did a stint in the rally scene with rally cars, and that got expensive and and time consuming when we had kids around.
Yeah.
We bought a block of land, built a house 35 years ago. We're still in that house.
Still in that house.
Probably will be till the end of time. Love the house, love the area, and we've made it a home, So through that time, well, when I was at school, I was into boxing and I was into gym, and I dabbled a bit in football, but I wasn't a great football player. I was very ill-disciplined, and the boys that I was with went on and did really good things, played for the Broncos and played for, Canterbury and overseas and all that. Some of those lads that I played, knocked around with when I was at school, but they were stars, and I was a reserve.
But I was a benchmark.
But I would more lean towards the boxing, and that was PCYC, Fortitude Valley, and weights. I just loved lifting heavy weights. So I continued that through as a young man. I was always at the gym. We had 4 kids. I had this crazy thing in my head that when we had kids, my wife was going to stay at home, because when I was growing up, my big sisters looked after us while mum and dad went to work, and I wanted my wife at home. So Jen stayed at home and looked after the kids. And as a result, I ended up working 2 jobs, which is where I met you, Kyl.
Yep.
I got into the whole BJC thing through Bill Bowman, training at Hitman Dojos, Muay Thai, and then Coben dojos with Bill. And then, through that, obviously met the hierarchy and Malcolm Anderson, and then started working for them as a second job, doing the security.
So when was that 90?
Early 90s, 93, 4. I started doing concerts with and open air festivals with people like Lenny Quackerwood and those guys, and Mason Jardine and Dino Toshi and all
So
those
you
boys.
even had back then your people that you go, fucking hell, like this guy's a machine.
Oh yeah. Oh, people like Dino Toshi. Dino,
I remember Dino.
he was just the most incredibly strong person that you could. You just went, man, the guy's a mountain. Mason Jardine was like a champion powerlifter, and he was shorter than me.
And he rode bulls in his spare time too.
That's right. So there was all those guys, and Lenny Quackerwood was just an awesome martial artist, a great Zendekai practitioner. So yeah, I met those guys, got involved in it that way, kept up my trade, and built the house. As I said, moved out there, was training, doing Muay Thai, and still doing gym. All my gym stuff I was never into bodybuilding. I was just into being big, strong, powerful. That's what it was all about. And meeting those guys and seeing how strong they were was just,
I remember something that I always say this back to people. You had this thing, as long as your chest is bigger than your guts, everything's okay.
That's right.
And I remember, like, when I first met you, like, you were wide like this. I'm not saying you, but you're like, chest was out here, and like, as long as your chest is bigger than your guts, it's fine.
They were the training was very basic. It was like bench press and deadlift, and so anyway, that went on, and then through that stuff, I met some great people, and I got invited out to the police academy to wrestle with a group out there. And they were incredibly good grapplers, and champions in their own right in jiu-jitsu and judo. And so there was Chris Haseman and, Sean Price and Danny Higgins and, Craig Booth and Bill Turner. They were all great wrestlers. And so I got invited out there and by Craig Booth who I'd done powerlifting with and to do, some of this grappling, and I just fell in love with it. It was just like, this is so great.
What was the difference from the grappling stuff to the hitting stuff?
Well, see, they were training for shoot fighting.
Yeah.
So they were standing up.
So we're talking history lesson back when, like, Chris Haseman, for example, I think he was the first Australian to go into the UFC.
Yeah.
And there was this promotion, Rings
Australia.
And that was still that Japanese influence.
That's right.
Because they wore those big boots and shin pad things.
Exactly.
I remember a couple of those shows.
And Chris ran Rings Australia. So and they went over and fought. I never went and fought overseas or anything like that with them. They went over to Russia and all kinds of things. And and then Chris got onto the UFC scene and we all jumped in a Tarago and drove to Sydney. Chris and Bill flew down and got there a couple of days early, and all the rest of the entourage went down in Tarago, stayed at my sister's house in Sydney and went to the first UFC in Australia to watch Chris fight Elvis Sinovic.
Yeah.
And so that was that. And through that period of time, I was influenced by those guys to join the QPS, and that's where that one. So then QPS, moving on in that 7 minutes of the life.
It's fine.
The QPS
It sometimes takes hours.
QPS happened, and I was 3 years in uniform, and then went into plainclothes and was 17 years in plainclothes, and then became a detective and worked through there. And then through that time, obviously my kids are growing up and, and they're doing their own things and going to uni and doing everything else. And young Maddie, the oldest boy, went into that martial arts scene and became a professional fighter and did that for many years, 2012 to 2020 was just a pro fighter. And now moving on into the QFRS as a fiery. And so you all through that time, the kids are growing up, we're just doing our thing, living life. And I'm getting really tied up with policing and just it's overwhelming my life, and I'm just spending more time there than I should be. But we're still going strong and everything's going well. 2021, I turned 60 and was age retirement. I had to retire. I didn't want to retire. Did not want to stop working, and dipped my toes in a few things to see what there was for me, and just fortunately a door opened and I stayed on with the QPS and I'm still with the QPS now in a different role, no longer a sworn detective, but now still working for the QPS in uniform every day, but working at a watch house, looking after the guys that get arrested. They come in there and we put them through the books and take their fingerprints and photographs and do their charge sheets and lock them up, give them a bed for the night until they go to jail.
We were talking offline and we've spoken about this before. You would probably be like going back a couple of steps there. So you've always, like you said, with Jen not working, that was your plan. So you've always been a provider, but you've always been a protector, and you've always been this person that just loves a good yarn.
Yeah.
And probably the difference between you and, maybe other police out there or even other security and that sort of thing. I remember you like standing on the front door of clubs at God knows what hour in the morning, and you would just talk to anybody. And everyone knew Kas. That's Kas. That's Kas. I'm like, how does everybody know this guy? Because you would just talk to everybody. Yeah. We spoke again like offline. That must have been, as a copper, that must have been like your superpower.
Yeah, I guess it was, and I I actually love people, and from all walks of life, I actually enjoy talking to people.
And like we said, also, like everyone's equal.
Yeah, and they are, and and this was the thing. I got to the watch house, and I didn't know what it was going to be like, because although I'd been to the watch house umpteen times throughout my career, taking people there, you do your side of it and you hand them over and you walk away, um, and that's it. But I was like, how's this going to go for me? Because I'm so used to the interaction of going and talking to people and extracting information, and all the way through that policing career, every time you spoke to someone, in the background there was an ulterior motive. You were speaking to a victim and you were trying to get enough information out of them so that you could investigate and solve this crime for them and get them justice. Or you were talking to the crook and you were trying to get as much information out of him so that you could build a case around him and put him before the courts. So there was always this kind of like ulterior motive, and you were leading the conversation to where you wanted it to go in the investigation process. I'll get to the watch house, and and I'm there, and they're bringing them in. They've already been charged. They've already been caught, and they're now waiting to go to court or waiting to go to jail or whatever. And I'd take them out the back, and I'd be taking their fingerprints and photograph and DNA, and all of a sudden there's no underlying ulterior motive in the conversation. It's like, hey mate, how you going? I'm gonna do your DNA and blah blah blah, and you start talking to them. What do you do for a job? Oh, I'm a politician. No. What do you do for a job? What are they? I'm a builder. I'm a this. I'm a that. And, so you do the trade? Yeah, yeah. And we're just having conversations, real conversations, and then I'd be like, so where did the wheels fall off? Like when you're at school and seeing the guidance counsellor about your future, you weren't saying,
I'd love to be a criminal.
I want to be a car thief, or a burglar.
It sounds like a good idea.
So everyone has a story, and everyone has a point where the wheels fell off. And 3 years now, I've been at the watch house, or nearly. It's in July, it'll be 3 years. And I can honestly say that I haven't really met an evil person there. I've met a lot of sad people there, a lot of people who circumstances in life and poor choices in life have steered them in a direction that they definitely weren't planning to go in when they were a teenager, thinking about where life was going to take them. And in a lot of ways, that's sad. And, just giving that little bit of hope and just saying, mate, you know what? You can pull through this. You can come out the other side of this if you choose to. It's just a human thing to show some compassion to people,
Do you find that some of those people coming into the watch house and that sort of thing, they're surprised that a copper, and again, I'm not trying to, stigma or anything, but they're surprised that they're in a watch house, they're getting processed and all that sort of, and there's this guy in a blue uniform that's actually talking to them like they're a human being. Does that surprise a few of them?
It doesn't, because the crooks and the guys that are on the wrong side of the law, most of them see the good coppers as well. Most of them do. And it's a bit like that. We talked once before about this guy, in the days when we were on the doors and we were security on the doors and we were called bouncers. And, there was this stigma about all the bouncers, thugs and rat bags and everything else. That's because the only ones that got any publicity were the ones that were like that. And it's the same with the QPS, mate. I tell you, there are vastly more good coppers than there are bad.
Totally.
There are vastly more police that are doing their job because they actually do want to make a difference.
And that's the thing.
But you don't see them.
In the newspaper, we don't see a list of that.
No.
We see a list of all the other ones.
Exactly. And you go to a police station anywhere here in Queensland and you might get a disgruntled copper who you know, in the eyes of the public, he's just a prick because he gives me tickets just for fun.
Yeah.
But or whatever. But honestly, some of the salt of the earth people that I count as my closest, dearest friends have come through that policing career, and it was a bit like what we had in those days, where you had the backing of those people that were behind you. When we were working on a nightclub somewhere, you knew that no matter how scrawny the other guard was with you, he was going to be backing you up.
There was a degree of trust.
There was, and
that's so different to any, like, policing, almost exactly the same, but it's so different to sitting in somebody across a desk from you in an office. Like, you know, like this person, and God, we had our share of incidents where, like, yeah, you're putting your life in that person's hands.
Yeah, that's right. But look, policing was fantastic for me. I loved every moment of my policing career. Never really had any bad incidents where, you know, where I'd say, oh, I'd throw this in. Had some horrible times, you know, emotional times when you're going to tragedies, and you can't help but wear some of that on yourself.
Because you did a stint in, like, the child protection.
I was in the
that would have weighed a bit heavily.
You know, one Christmas, I went to work, said goodbye to my kids, and went to work, and looking forward to coming home Christmas time. And that particular day, I was working with a sergeant, Alyssa, and we did 3 child deaths in that one day.
On
3 tragic child deaths, and then went home to our families. And the grief of the families, you can't help but wear some of.
Oh, you can't not take that on.
And that's where you need you know, strong people behind you and beside you to get through that, and to come out the other side of it, you know. But yeah, look, policing's been great, and I'm still there. I'm still with them. People are coming into the watch house, and they're guys that I work with, and they're bringing in bodies, and you know, bringing in people for us, and crooks are coming in there. Even last night, there was a young fella there, and he's come out, and I was out the front, and he's come out to see the nurse from out of the cells, and I'm, hey, and he's like, oh, hello, and the boy's like, how do you know him? I said, I think I first pinched him when he was 14. He's breaking into a car. But there was no malice, you know. He's like, oh, how are you? And I'm like, yeah, good, mate. What have you been up to? You still doing the same stuff?
Still the same gig.
And that young fella, he's there 19, and he told me last night, he said, look, I'm going back in and clearing up all these matters that have been haunting me, because I've been accepted into the army in a couple of months' time, and I'm going to become a soldier. And I was like, mate, good on you, you know.
So good.
And so he's just cleaning the rubbish out so he can move on.
But it's like that thing, like, everyone deserves not just a second chance. No. Maybe they deserve a third, fourth, or fifth chance.
But we're not all fast learners.
We're not meant to get it right the first time.
That's right. So where are we now? So there's the end of that's the life in short. 4 children, all grown up, all doing their own things. 5 grandchildren, and
your family,
Jen and I, you know,
is your family is, from what I see and what I know, your family is tight.
Yeah, we are.
Like, you do the family holiday at Stradbroke. You know, you've been doing that for fucking forever.
Stradbroke Island, you know, I used to go there as a kid with my dad, and then got married, and in 1982, and the very next year, like 12 months on, because in those days you had a holiday every 12 months. So, you know, there was the holiday for our wedding, and then 12 months later, it was like, righto, I'm loading up the Tirana, and we're going to Carnarvon Gorge, you know. I had this hotted up Tirana, and we're going to Carnarvon Gorge because we both love nature and love getting in the bush or going to the beach. So we pack everything, we head out to Carnarvon Gorge. It's flooded. So we turn around and we come back to Brisbane. There's no internet. It's 1983 now. And we get the yellow pages and we're looking where we're going to go. We've got to go.
That's a phone book.
It's a phone
It was a
book.
phone book.
And Jen's looking at it and she goes, oh, look at this. This sounds nice. Seeing how it's raining and horrible and miserable. Cozy cottages, Stradbroke Island. Oh, I'm like, I haven't been there for years. The car's still packed. Let's go. We go to cozy cottages at Stradbroke Island at Amity. And it's raining. And within 3 days, we've got no clothes. Everything's wet. There's no laundromat on the island. There's nothing in those days. And I went up to the local dump and found an old fishing jacket, taped it up with gaffer tape so I could still go fishing. And you know, and that was the start of our Stradbroke holidays, and we go every year.
That's crazy.
Took the kids there, grew them up there, camping on the beach, and now we just get a big house and they all come with the grandkids, and you know, and we have a big family time. But that's where that is, and you know, they've all got their own families now, and we still spend a lot of time with them and with the grandkids and everything else. But sooner or later, we'll be retired. Like I mean, I'm retired, but I've stayed on. But I don't know, maybe 2 years more, 3 years, I don't know. But when that happens, we will be the grey nomading, because that's what we do. We love getting in the
because you love your hunting and your disappearing tricks.
Yeah.
And Jen in her spare time loves running ridiculous fucking distances.
Yeah, I reckon she's done, and this is not exaggerating, in the last week, she would have done 40 to 50K. Like this morning, she was up and at the gym training before I was awake. She left before 5, and then she was back before I left. That's her discipline. That's what she loves, and that's what keeps her sane. And it's a funny thing how that started, Kyl, because Jen's always been athletic. You know, she played netball when she was younger, indoor cricket and touch footy and all the things that, you know, people do. And I remember so vividly, I came home, we were in the house at Ferny Hills, and I've come home from work, and she's got kids, you know, there's 4 kids, and Jacob's little, and she goes, here, hands me Jacob, and she goes, I'm going for a run. And as she's walking away, I go, you don't run. And she's
do
like,
now.
I do now. And off she went, you know, and I probably did a block and came back, and I go, you're better now. Oh, I'm great. And from there, it turned into, from, you know, 2Ks to 5Ks to I'm doing a fun run. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's where everyone runs for fun. People run for fun. You know, and then it blew out and ended up being, you know, the half marathons and then the marathons, and then a couple of triathlons. And then she discovered a love for running, like a twofold thing. She's always loved nature and the bush, and you know, hiking and bushwalking, and we both have. And then she found that you can run in the bush, and that's even more fun because you do it, you see a lot more. And so she started being a trail runner and then an ultra trail runner, and now a lot of our holidays revolve around that. Last year in August was Uluru, and she did the 128K Larapinta Trail, a 4-day stage race, and she's training now for September this year. We go down to Great Ocean Road for the Surf Coast Century 100K race down there. So
I'm just thinking, I'm surely not the only one thinking of this. I'm just thinking Forrest Gump, where it's like, I just started running.
And you know, the strange thing about it, it's like this. It's like what we had with the, you know, with the martial arts and everything. They've got a really strong community, and the people that she trains with, the group that she's with, I'll give them a plug, the Trailblazers. They are just a sensational group of people that support each other and look out for each other and socialise with each other. And it's a real group of different people. Jen's probably the oldest one there.
Because I was going to say, how old is Jen?
63. Oh, she's 62. She'll be 63 in August, the same age as me.
For both of you, you're very young at heart for your age. aren't you?
I guess so. Juvenile, some people say.
Just trying to be
Young,
polite.
yeah. But and and that keeps her young too, because like
100%.
one of the girls that she runs with, Karen, just an amazing young woman, and they came out to Alice Springs with us, and her and Jen ran for 4 days together, like mother and daughter. Do you know what I mean? And
That's crazy, isn't it?
she's half Jen's age. You know what I mean? But there's no boundaries in the age in that they all support each other. They all hang out together, guys, girls, married people, single people, and they just all have this passion for running, and it's great. That's their thing.
So good to see.
So how long she keeps doing it, I don't know. She said the plan is Larapinta last year, Surf Coast Century this year, and the Margaret River next year. So they're long trips away.
But it's so good how you can tie the two together.
You can, and it's good because you go there, you have these events. I'm at the events. I don't run, but I'm the background person.
You're the support crew.
Well, it is like that. The partners and your husbands, wives, that these people are like that, and you get to know them as well, and they're supporting their families and their loved ones to do these things, these crazy runs and these crazy events. But it makes them happy.
It's so good because like you're obviously still shift working and that sort of thing, but you see so much on your socials that you'll have that 4 days off, and you're gone.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah, that's right. And hopefully, once Jen pulls the pin on work, because she's still working in childcare, and once she pulls the pin on work, then it's going to be very hard for me to justify still working, because we don't need to work. I work because I want to work. I had that policing career. We're pretty well established and debt-free and, everything else, and could pull the pin tomorrow. But while I'm enjoying it, why would I? And I enjoy everything about work. Like I'll go hunting, I'll come back, I'll take wild meat into work, make a big curry up for the boys, and and that kind of thing. And it's that social aspect of it that I enjoy as well. Which I suppose you'd get somewhere else. You'd just be around the campfire talking to someone, but
I think it's something that's probably, I wouldn't say dying, but it's not the first thing. Like on days off now, so many of us will just want to sit around or whatever, but you don't seem to do that. And again, I think it's great that you've both got your own thing.
Well, look, I think that's one of the things. When people first meet me from Jen's friends, they're probably a little bit taken back. They're like, oh, wow, that, I didn't expect, this whippet of a running girl to be with this, Grizzly Adams looking dude that goes hunting and spearfishing. And the same the other way, when people meet Jen, they're like, probably thinking you're punching above your weight, but they're like, they don't, I don't know what they expect. A bearded lady, I don't know.
But isn't that what makes it work?
I think it does, because we are very different in a lot of ways, and very much our own people in a lot of ways. But in the important things, we're very one-minded.
Yeah.
In those important things, that where all the superficial stuff that you do is gone.
Yeah.
Who you actually are is
very different.
We're the same in those
But
things.
what you stand for is the same.
And I think that's what keeps a relationship going as well.
100%.
Yeah. So that's me to
That was longer than 7 minutes, but that's okay. That's okay. All right. So
I don't
moving
have
on.
to start work till 2.
Well, I got nowhere to be. I don't get to spend enough time with you anymore. 3 reasons. Question 2. 3 reasons you get out of bed every morning.
Yeah. So, obviously having family, having a wife, having grandkids, that's a reason enough to get up every day. And you don't want to miss a day because you might miss something.
Difference I'm yet to experience this. I'm sure it'll happen soon. Blink my eyes, it'll be happening.
Yeah.
Grandchildren compared to your own children,
Yeah.
difference?
Yes and no, because I loved having kids. I loved children. I just, you know, being able to those those quizzical looks as the cogs start to go together when you're explaining something to them or showing something to them, and they're like, "Oh, wow!" You know, it's powerful because you're passing something on in that. But grandchildren, oh, it's such another level again. You know, just they melt your heart. My little
What's your
granddaughter.
youngest and oldest?
So the oldest is Lucy, and she's 6, and then the youngest is Malu, and he's 6 months.
Yeah, right.
So there's a bit of a spread between there, and there's 3 boys and 2 girls, and over 3 children. So both my daughters have 2 children each, and my youngest boy Jacob, they've got a 6-month-old little Malu. And they're traveling. They've been on the road for 2.5 years. They came home, had a baby, and were back on the road. The baby was 1.5, 2 months old. So they're on the road now with a 6-month-old.
Because that hasn't been any influence of you guys.
No, living the life, you know, living in a troop carrier, camper, towing a boat and a motorbike, and camping.
And isn't it
on
funny?
beaches.
Some parents would be like, why the fuck are you doing that? Whereas you said you'd be, see ya,
Yeah,
have fun.
look, you know, it is good. But yeah, like grandchildren, having a wife that's motivated and having a good relationship and kids, that's a reason to get out of bed. Another reason to get out of bed is that I actually really like my lot in life. I enjoy what I do, so I like getting up and doing it. I like getting into work and seeing what's going on and getting into it. I also enjoy being productive. So I can't think of anything worse than just sitting around doing nothing.
You're
So,
always,
you know, I love getting up.
tinkering, building,
Yeah.
hunting,
So
traveling.
there's always something to do. You know, I'm getting up and I'm like, right, I'm going to cook dinner. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that.
Do you find as like, because I mean, like, probably not so much these days, but in your policing, like you said, you would have dealt with some heavy shit. Is going and doing, because I know I do it every few months. I just try to do a few days where I call it a disappearing trip.
Yep.
Do you find that just helps hit that reset button?
Oh, absolutely. And you need that downtime. You know, I was saying about how I was saying to you about when I go away hunting, you know, and I go away with a bloke, Craig Booth. He's been a mate of mine since we were 20. He was in the army. We started doing powerlifting together. He did a bit of Thai under Malcolm, and then he finished in the army. He joined the police in 1988. And then he was the one that invited me to the academy to wrestle with him when he came back to Brisbane in the mid-90s. And so we've been mates for a long, long time, and we still are, and enjoy each other's company. We both like hunting, so we go away hunting together. And he's the guy I hunt with. But you know, when we go away, sometimes we're natter, talk, and other times we're both just quiet and doing our own thing, and we're both comfortable enough with each other to be able to do that.
They're the best friendships, aren't they?
Yeah.
You don't feel obligated to speak.
Yep. You know, so we'll go out for a hunt in the morning. We'll come back
And just
to
enjoying
wherever.
each other's company.
Yeah. Craig will lay down and have a rest or read a book or whatever, and that's when I do my own thing. I put my rifle on and I go, and I'll be out, you know, walking, looking at animal trails. So Sunday I'll see a video. I'm looking at animal tracks and then tracking, and then, you know, getting something, and then I'll come back and get the car and go out there and field dress it and bring it back. And Craig will wake up. Did you get anything? Yeah.
Actually, I did.
You know? But that time of me just walking, looking at stuff, noticing stuff, it's a really strange thing. And I don't know where it comes from, but I see a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't see. And it's like peripheral stuff. I'll be there and I'll see a little movement, a different bit of color, a sharp angle that doesn't fit with nature. You know, I see all that stuff and I notice it, and it's like, hang on, what's that? Something's moved there. Oh, okay. You know, there's a pig over there, or there's a you know, a parting of the grass. Something's come through here. There's some scat. Righto, what have we got? You know, and those things, your mind is focused on that, and everything else in the world goes away. And it's like hobbies, you know. Since I finished with the police, I started carving.
Yeah.
And which was something that I used to watch my uncles and my dad carve, and I used to look at it and think, wow, that's mad. But I never got into it because I didn't have the patience.
Do you find that, so two things there. Number one, a lot of couples, so this is something like, because I travel a bit with training by myself and I'll do my stuff by myself. A lot of couples, and each to their own, the concept of going away from your partner and your family by yourself for a few days at a time, a lot of couples would go, we don't do that. We have to be together.
Yeah.
It's good to have that time just to recharge.
Our time apart is never too long.
No.
And in fact, when in early 2021, I went up to Arakoon to do a short-term deployment.
I remember
some
that.
dramas they had up there when I was policing. And I went up to Arakoon and I was up there for a few weeks, and it was the longest time since 1982 that Jen and I had been apart, completely apart. You know, like I'd go on fishing trips and be away for 3 days or 4 days, or she'd go on a running camp or whatever for a few days. But that breaking that week and blowing that out further, we'd never been apart for that long. And it was a bit bizarre.
It was hard
work. It was bizarre. But nowadays, you know, you can FaceTime, you can, it's not like, you know, you're never too far apart with technology. You know?
The second thing was, because of your heritage, do you feel that now you're sort of coming full circle, like getting, I don't know if you call it back to your roots, but like I said, you've been fishing, you can't remember as long as you can remember.
Yeah, that's right.
You've been like this has always been an outdoors thing, but like we spoke earlier about, like, you know, your father's heritage and that sort of thing, but you're probably embracing it more than you ever have.
Oh, I think so. I do think so. When you get older, you start, you know, wondering about what could have been, what should have been, and what led you down this path, that door that opened, that you know, moved you into this direction. And that carving stuff, you know, like I hadn't touched that stuff for a long, long time, and I got it out, and I just started, and then 3 years on, I've done over 100 pieces, mostly for family and close friends, and they're all traditional materials. You know, I carve out of shell, pearl shell. I carve out of turtle shell, which is a bit of a bizarre thing because, you know, turtles are protected. You're not supposed to have their shell unless it's vintage. So you could go and buy a turtle shell brooch from a vintage shop. That's cool, but you can't go and kill a turtle and use its shell to make something. The shell that I'm using to make these pieces is shell that I've still got from when I was 18 and speared my first turtle as part of an initiation, coming of age type thing.
Yeah, right.
I've never speared a turtle since, and I have no inclination to spear a turtle at all. But that's just a part of history. And I've still got some of that shell, and I've made significant pieces for family members out of that shell, you know, and I carve out a bone, which is probably one of my favourite mediums to carve out of, because it's just such a strange material. There's no grain, or there is a grain, but it's not a grain that'll crack. You know, it's the integrity of it is very good.
So you're definitely not a guy that anyone goes to and asks what to watch on Netflix or anything like
that. No. But yeah, you know, look, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and I understand that. Like,
but it's all you know.
Well, it's something that I enjoy doing.
Well, you've been outdoors and you've been doing this sort of stuff all your life, and like you said, that's feeding through now to like
Yeah.
Jacob, you know, that shit doesn't happen by
No,
accident.
it doesn't. And you know, like you as I was saying, that you see stuff. So we're driving down the highway last year, going from Uluru down to South Australia through the Red Centre, Cooper Pedy, etc. And we're hunting along in my Hilux with our camper on the back, and away we're going. And I'm like, oh wow. Jen's like, what's going on? Pull up. There's a dead camel over there on the side of the road. Yeah, there's a dead camel. So what? I'm in the back, reciprocating saw over again, and harvest a bit of bone from this dead camel. And Jen's like, that ain't coming in the car. So I cable tied to the chassis to the bull bar, the tow bar at the back. So it's outside. So that bit of bone in my mind, I'm thinking camel bone. I've never worked with camel bone. I'd like to do. A girl in South Australia that used to live in Brisbane, that was part of the kayak fishing club. And when I was talking to her one time up here, her name was a bit different. You know, her surname was, her first name's Janara, and she told me that her ancestors were Afghan cameleers. And I'm like, wow, how cool is that? And they came here and looked at, you know, ran camels for probably for Burke and Wills. I don't know, but I'm thinking camel bone. She comes to mind. You know, great chick. I go home. I carve her a talisman. She doesn't know about it. I carve her a camel, single hump camel, out of a piece of lower rear leg bone of a wild camel. It could have been a descendant of the camels that her ancestors looked after.
100%.
You know, made a lanyard for it and sent it to her. And I got a lot of joy out of doing that while I was making that thing, you know. And there's something about that natural material, you know.
Yeah.
Like the Maoris, I love the Maori culture, and you know they talk about you know, they wear their greenstone and bone carving talismans, and they talk about the mana of the person. I wear it. It's on my skin, my scent, my oils, my body, my soul goes into that. And then I hand that on to my son. And that piece goes through families, you know. And that, to me, that's kind of like it makes sense to me, you know.
Yeah.
Like if I could carve out a human bone, I would.
Yeah.
But
don't know how well that would roll out.
I might be the one in the watch house, but you know, you know, a bit of whale bone or a bit of dugong bone or something like that. It's got some soul about it, you know. So, but talking about that, Kyle. Talking about that while we're here, with my carvings. As you know, I did say some time ago that I did a piece for you.
Yes.
And you're probably one of the only people outside family and close work colleagues that I've actually done a piece for. And so I'll give that to you because I've got it here somewhere. So I can see it. So this is a piece. This is a piece of bone from a bull.
A bull?
From a bull, yeah.
Oh, my God.
And this is the triangle jiu-jitsu symbol out of bone that I carved and wanted to give to you. And that's how I do my lanyards. I plait them out of single strand. And that's a jiu-jitsu triangle.
So for those who don't know, triangle is the shape that represents jiu-jitsu. It's the strongest shape. It identifies the base. Mate, this is so cool. Thank you.
All right, mate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I've been wanting to give you that, and this is the good opportunity to bring it over.
It's so
But
good.
yeah. So that's off a hind leg of a bull.
Strong like a bull.
Yeah, of a bull out at Yalarbin, where we hunt on that property, where there was a bull out there that met its demise, and yeah, good strong bone out of the rear leg.
So good. Thank
So,
you.
enjoy, mate. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, we must be moving.
All right, okay. That's not a moment. All right, number 3, 2 guilty pleasures that you have.
Yeah, okay. So going back to that, talking about going away, it is a guilty pleasure. You know, I enjoy hunting, but there's always a little bit of guilt around it because, you know, I work 7 nights and then I'll go away for a few days. And those days off, I'm away from family, away from everything.
This is what I was kind of getting at before.
Enjoying my own thing. And although I'm enjoying it and it's pleasurable, it's always in the back of your mind that you're doing this and getting this pleasure, but the rest of your family's not. So it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure. Jen is really good. You know, she's just like, you know, it's your time. You need to have that time. So
I think like I
she
was saying
understands.
before, you need to balance that
Mm.
out. I have exactly the same.
So, you know, yeah, it's a pleasure, but there's a little bit of guilt around it because you are getting away. And then on a more basic note, I really enjoy coffee, and we had coffee there this morning. And as I was sharing with you this morning, I'm full carnivore at the moment, and I eat nothing but meat and drink water and have a coffee every now and then. Well, you know, coffee every day, which I enjoy. But a guilty pleasure. If I wasn't full carnivore at the moment, I enjoy nothing more than a big piece of ice cream in that coffee to make it into an affogato. Affogato, coffee and ice cream is the guilty pleasure. It's just something that, you know, those two things go hand in hand.
Do you know what?
I haven't had one for a long time.
The amount of people that when I do guilty pleasures, it's like chocolate, ice cream. Like there's always it's a one of them is a food thing.
Yeah,
Like it's like we have this thing in our head, like, oh, I can't eat this, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
So so ice cream, especially in a coffee.
So vanilla?
Yeah, just a big piece of vanilla.
Just a good creamy
You know
vanilla.
how they make it? They put a scoop in it. And they drop it into a double shot black coffee, and it starts melting into it. And it's So that's a guilty pleasure. I haven't had one for a long time, but
affogatos is still one of those things. If you go to you know, I'm like nearly 50, but you go to a restaurant and think you're really cool, you order an affogato and get a shot of Amarello with it or something.
That's right, mate. So that's probably that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4, one thing you bought that literally made you happy every day after.
Well, this is going to sound really soppy.
That's okay.
And
speak freely.
But it's probably true. If you're looking at it as a in realism, there's nothing that I've ever bought that's you know, just an item. You know, I've got some beautiful tools that I really love. I've got a rifle that I really like. I've got some knives that I love, and you know, am very protective of, that I use for my hunting and my fishing. I've had lots of fast cars, lots of nice motorbikes, lots of nice boats. But if I was going to say one thing that I bought that has made me happy for the rest of my life, and everyone's going to think I'm a sook, it was a bus ticket in 1979.
Okay.
It was a bus ticket. That's I can honestly say that. I bought this bus ticket and I jumped on this bus and I saw Jen. And had I not bought that bus ticket, where would I be today?
Isn't that like, can you remember that? Clearly you remember that bus trip.
Yeah.
But was that bus trip, can you remember it enough? Like, was it a planned thing? Did you go, fuck it, I'm going here? Was it an off the cuff thing?
So it was one of those nights. It was a Thursday. I'd gone into town and done a part of that traineeship, the stuff that I was doing in town, with the printing industry. And I was catching the bus from the city back to Paddington to walk down the hill to my mum's place, to our family home, where my car was that I'd left there in the morning on my way to work, and just happened to get on this bus, and Jen was on the same bus. She was on her way home to her mum and dad's place, which was also at Paddington, only a few blocks away, but I didn't know her, and saw her on that bus and was just like, I got to catch this same bus next week. And I did. I jumped on the same bus. Yep. Strangely enough, here she is sitting down talking to a mate of mine from school. So that was my opportunity
was your
to go
window.
over and say hello. And he said to me, he goes, "Oh, how you going, Kas? Yeah, great." His name is Greg. Yeah, great, mate. And he goes, "You know Jen? You know Jenny?" I said, "No, I don't." He goes, "Yes, you do. We went to school together." And I said, "No." And the reason that I didn't know her was because we mixed in such completely different circles.
Yeah, right.
She was, you know, a studious, good girl.
Kelvin Grove
And I
High
was
is
a
a
rat
big
bag.
high school too.
Yeah, yeah. And it was still in those days, there was a little bit of, you know, I was knocking around with a very specific group, which were mainly Indigenous kids and Islanders and stuff like that were more into sport than into school. And she was a studious, good kid. And so that's why I didn't know her, you know. And yeah, so we got off the bus and walked down the hill together, and she went her way to her mum's place and I went my way. And then, yeah, in those days, kids, we didn't have the internet.
We did a
We
weird
didn't
thing.
even have mobile phones. So I wrote her a letter.
You did what? What is this letter you speak
Yeah, I
of?
wrote a little letter and just asked her out, and she knocked me back.
Really?
Yeah,
Jeez. Man, hard to get.
yeah, but I was persistent.
I don't doubt that.
Nowadays they'd call that stalking. I think.
You'd be at the watch house for that too.
But no, you know, look, I asked her out a few times, and eventually we went out to lunch, and that was that. But yeah, the thing that I bought, that I'll
good.
be forever thankful that I did buy was that bus ticket, because it changed my life. It was a revolving door moment, and who knows where I would have been. I was mixing with a bit of a crowd at that time. One or two of them, two of them are dead now. And you know, through misadventure and through drugs and things like that. A couple of them are in jail because of, you know, stolen cars and
Just
you
went
know,
down
all
the wrong.
kinds of things.
They went down the wrong
And
path.
they were the guys I was knocking around with, and they were actually quite critical of me when I started going out with Jen, because you know she wasn't going to tag along with us, with my group of misfit mates, you know, and so it kind of pulled me away from them, and so they were a little bit, you know, not all that.
Isn't it funny how the universe just has a different plan
Yeah.
for us?
Yeah, my family were happy. My family were.
They
very
would have
happy,
been,
you know.
because they probably were seeing where you were going,
Yeah,
or where you could have been going
Yeah.
before you were going there.
but yeah, look, yeah. So that's the thing. I bought bus tickets.
It's funny, like, I mean,
They were cheap then too.
it's again that thing where people, well, they probably were, where people talk about this question and they like, oh, I don't know if there's one thing. And there's been a few that I've said, look at it metaphorically. You know, like, yeah, it's not necessarily, oh, I bought this car, or I bought
Yeah,
this
that's right.
house.
That's right.
It's like this thing. Question 6. 4 things you cannot live without, animate or inanimate.
Yeah, right. Obviously, and I've said it all the way through, is family. You know,
Yep.
I would hate to be a lone wolf. You know, family, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, cousins, and then closer to home, wife, children, grandchildren, mean everything to me, and I couldn't even contemplate living without family and
Yep.
being a lone wolf. So that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is my Stradbroke holiday.
It's a thing.
I say to Jen, you know, I don't care where we go. We can go and do a run in Timbuktu if you want to, but I still need my Stradbroke holiday every year. I go there. It's the place where family comes together. I get my head under the water, do my spearfishing, and
Correct me if I'm wrong. You were staying at the same place for like years.
We
too?
did. Well, when we first went there, we camped on the beach for years. The kids got to school age, or high school age, and it was like, oh, can I bring my friend so and so along? And it was like, I spend 2 weeks getting firewood and water so that you kids can shower and eat and live. And so this one year I was just buggered. I was tired, and I said to Jen, I've been working hard, and it was around the time that I was getting my into plain clothes and looking for my detective's appointment, and I was like, I just don't have the energy to be setting up camp and doing all this stuff. Let's just get a house. And we did. And we had such a great time because there was nothing to do except enjoy each other's
Just
company.
rock up.
And so from then on, we just got a house, and we used to stay in the same house for quite a while. And then the people that owned the house moved back in there, and it wasn't a rental anymore. So now we get a different place each year. Last year we got a place with a jetty right on the water. My little granddaughter Lucy, she caught 14 fish. She still remembers the number. Fed the whole family one night, the whole extended family ate fish from what Lucy had caught that day. So yeah, that's one thing I can't do without. I can't do without those trips away, the road trips. We love our road trips. I've got a Hilux and a camper that I built on the back, and I drive underneath it, wind down the legs, lock it on, plug it in.
What do you call it? The cubby.
And the roof opens up, and there's a bed in there, and there's a hot water system and a toilet and a pantry and a fridge, and it's all on the back of a Hilux, and off we go. I couldn't live without it.
Yeah,
I love it, and Jen loves it, and it's our thing that we do together when we get away. So they're a couple of things that I can't live without. Yeah.
The road trip and the traveling, you're clearly not like, if there is an option to fly somewhere as opposed to drive it, you'd prefer to drive it.
Yeah. I'm not, off flying. I'm happy to fly, but this year, so we've got a big trip this year. I just sorted it all out last night at work with the leave and everything. But August, we're going to Samoa for 3 weeks, and that's something that I've been wanting to do for ages. It's a work trip. It's a work trip.
Yeah.
It's put on by people within the QPS, and it's a cultural exchange to Samoa. There's 18 of us going over there, Jen and I, and a heap of other couples, all from the QPS, and we're all flying out as a group and doing sightseeing and cultural exchange over there in Samoa for 3 weeks.
That'll be awesome.
Which will be awesome because we'll see a bit of stuff that the normal tourist trade doesn't see because we're being chauffeured around by people over there, and which is good. And I've always loved the Polynesian and Melanesian cultures, and all the islanders. I love the culture. I love the idea of going there and seeing the way that they live. And
are you have you been overseas much?
No.
And the reason I asked that, I get the impression, and this is one thing, because my dad traveled a lot with oil exploration. And one thing I remember him saying, and my mum said he used to say it, the amount of the world he had seen, but there is so much to see in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just he goes, people break their neck to get overseas, but they still haven't seen within their own state.
Look, there's so much. When we go on these road trips, like that one last year, going just between here and crossing the border into the Northern Territory, there's that much to see. We stayed at a place called Dinosaur Creek. We were the only vehicle there. You could climb up on this hill and look as far as you could see to the horizon, and we were the only vehicle camped there on the tundra with dingoes.
People from European countries and that sort of thing, when they come here, that's one that, because I forget the geography of it, but Queensland is the size of 3 small European countries.
On that trip, we crossed into South Australia and we pulled into this free camp off the side of the road, over a couple of humps and just into the bush. And there's a couple of people camping here and there, and we set up camp. And I'm setting up, and Jen's like, "Look at this tree." And I glance over and I go, "It's a tree." And she's like, "No, look at this tree." And I looked at it again. And then I realized this tree that's about, 60, 70 meters away is a dead tree, but it's green because every square inch of it is covered with a green budgie. The whole tree was a budgie tree. And I'm just like, oh, wow, they're birds. You know,
Crazy,
and
huh?
like just stuff like that. It's just bizarre, you know, dingoes coming into camp and looking at you and walking away, you know, Carnarvon Gorge and echidna comes past our feet. He
Morning.
goes out that way. Oh, guys, don't touch me, I'm prickly. You know, and those kind of things are awesome. Jen and I are in Tasmania doing a road trip, and we pulled up beside this little creek, and you know, I set out the table, I'm cooking food, we sit down. There's a platypus looking at us right there. You know, those kind of things are just special. And when we have been overseas, you know, we went to Vanuatu. We had a great time in Vanuatu. Been to New Zealand a couple of times. Been to Tassie a few times. You know, that's not overseas, but it's
Well,
over water.
we're
Cross
going
water,
to
you know.
we're going to Tassie in a
And
few weeks.
you know, and we've enjoyed those things, but I've also enjoyed, like, I've got a video I'll show you, mate. I'll show you before we go. We're in South Australia, and we're on the Eyre Peninsula, and we're walking out on this jetty, and people are looking over the side. The Japanese tourists have taken 4,000 photos. There's a stingray, and he's just swimming there in the shallows, and I'm like, I've got to get in, Jen. She's going, no, there's a lot of people. No, I'm going in. So I'm straight off the jetty, and I'm swimming with this stingray, and you know, and this stingray is 6 foot across, and I'm just in the water with it. I know what the Japanese tourists are thinking. I'm pretty sure I could hear a film calling out Steve Irwin's brother, but you know, it was like, and I got out of that water that I'm at camp, and having a port. Which is something that I actually enjoy, thanks to Dale Hall introducing me to that.
Same.
Having a port and just sitting there thinking to myself, what a privilege to swim with that big girl there. She's just gentle. I patted her. Jen's video and me patting her as I'm swimming in the water with her in, you know, 3 feet of water. Those kind of things are priceless, you know.
Yeah.
Diving at spearfishing at Stratty with my son-in-law, and I'm taking a fish off my spear. We're treading water, and he looks at me and goes, "Shark." And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Big shark. Let's go." We swim in towards the shore, you know, and we're swimming along in 6 feet of water along the bank, trying to go back to where we came from. And I'm looking back. There's nothing. I'm getting all comfortable now. Still going. I'm just about to get out, and I look back, and there he is, big bully. He's only 10 feet behind me, just looking at me. And you feel alive.
Yeah.
Maybe just before you feel dead. But you know, you get
that
out
was
of,
the last.
you get out of the water, and you just think, what a, you know, look, yeah,
What a
it shocks
privilege.
you, but what a privilege
What a privilege.
to be in the water like that, you know. So there's a lot of stuff like that goes on in life that you can't miss, you know.
100%. All right. I think you've kind of answered this. Question 7. If you were not doing what you're doing in life right now,
Yep.
what would have been option number 2?
Retired. So 21, I'd have, in 2021, the option was keep working or retire, and I'd be retired, and that'd be, I guess, like that Luke Bryan song, hunting, fishing, loving every day. I don't know.
Do you reckon, going back further, back to the bus ticket, do you sort of wonder, because those guys you were knocking around with, like you said, what happened to them? Do you think that you might have gone down that path had you not had a Jen to not pull you in line, but let you see there's more to life?
See, with that whole time came a new beginning for me as well, because, you know, we'd been brought up to be respectful people, to, you know, to be accepting people, to accept people from all walks of life, all cultures, whatever. But my parents never really forced anything upon us. We still had to learn our own way, and we still had to fall in the holes and climb back out of them. We weren't mollycoddled or anything like that. And so we were finding our own way. And quite often I'd gravitate towards people that were doing exciting stuff. So and sometimes that exciting stuff was on the edge, do you know what I mean? And so,
It was also illegal.
yeah, well, it might have been some of it, but, but that exciting stuff, like I like shooting, I like doing, chasing after animals and diving and, doing stuff that driving fast cars and having motorbikes and what have you. With that change of Jen being such a more staid person that was a lot more sensible than me. And, and our relationship blossomed from there. But it was also around that time, when I met Jen, that I found my own spirituality and became a Christian and started looking at things from a different perspective and started looking at the bigger picture of life. And so that was a massive focus change in life as well, as not just, meeting a girl on the bus, but my whole life was changing at that time. And we moved into that, that new era of me together, which was something that, stuck with me for my whole life then.
The retired thing, some people really struggle with retirement because they find that they lose their purpose or they're so busy and then there's nothing to do. I think you in retirement would be okay.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have nothing to do.
I think you'd be fine.
But it probably wouldn't be as structured as it is when you're working, I'd for sure I'd be volunteering doing something, but
you'll always be working again, work doesn't mean paid, but there'll be work that you need,
that's right.
that you'll do.
That's right. Yeah. So that's where I'd be retired. There was no other option. It was either keep working or retire. So
I'm not done yet. All right. Number 8. One time you have backed yourself when everything was saying to just give up.
I was thinking about this and I've been fortunate to be surrounded by people that are very positive and not really had people being negative and saying, "Oh, just give it up." But there is a significant time that happened, and I think about it still to this day, because the outcome could have been very different. I was working with a guy by the name of Mick Forbes. He's retired now, sergeant. Awesome dude. We just hit it off. We got on well from the first day that we met. He's retired and doing the granddad thing, and he was a sergeant, and we were working together. Night wireless, which means you're the detective crew on for the night, and you get called to anything that you needed at. And so we're working at 10 to 6. Late at night, this job comes over, and it's at a motel in Windsor, and there's a standoff. There's a heap of police there. There's a bloke in the foyer of the hotel, and there's glass around, and he's in the foyer. The staff are all out of there because it's late, early hours in the morning, and the police are all around the outside looking in at him. And there's this guy there, and he's just losing it. He's got an infant in his arm and a knife, and he's saying, "I'm going to kill the baby and I'm going to kill myself." Something had happened. He'd come here from somewhere up north. They were staying in the motel, and for some kind of an appointment, whatever it was. His missus had gone out and hadn't come back, and he's believing she's run off and left him and the kid. And he's been drinking heavily, and everyone's standing off, and he's getting more agitated and more every minute. They've called negotiators, and everyone's saying, like, we're just going to sit this out and hopefully he doesn't do anything. And I was like, I can't sit this out.
I don't think
I'm not staying out here. I'm going to have to do something. The DDO, the district duty officer, and the hierarchy was saying, no, leave it to the experts. And I was saying to Mick, I want to go in. I just want to go in and talk to him. I don't have to do anything. even if I just keep him talking until they get here, it's better than us all being out here
Just
looking at
waiting.
him and him getting more and more agitated. So Mick agreed, and against the thoughts of the hierarchy that were there, I went in to the door, sat down, walked straight into the door, and he was over near a counter, and I just sat down just inside the door. Mate, I just want to talk to you. Get out. I'll kill the baby. I'll kill myself. No, dude, I just want to talk to you. I'm not doing anything. I just want to talk to you. Just want to understand what's going on. And he started talking to me. And after some time of talking to me, I got the story, and we just started talking, and then I just started appealing to his better judgment. I'm saying to him, that's your baby, man. It's flesh of your flesh, blood of your blood. What can he be? Our children can be all the things that we weren't. He's innocent. He's got no reason to be hurt by his own dad. You will never, ever, change this course of action if you do this. And we just talked for a little bit, and eventually something that I said appealed to him, and he broke down, and he put the knife down, and he walked over and handed me the child.
Wow.
I've handed the child to Mick, and I put handcuffs on him, and I said to him, you're not going to the watch house. You're going to the hospital. We're taking you to Prince Charles Mental Health. And that was that, and it was resolved. And against the people saying, don't do it, don't go in. I went in, and I think back, did I do the right thing? How would I have felt if he stabbed the baby in front of me? And then they all said, if you hadn't gone in, he might not have done it, But coulda, shoulda, woulda, it happened. I got a pat on the back and a nice certificate from the commissioner, and that's on the wall and all this kind of stuff. But it was what it was about was, I don't know his name. I don't know the baby's name. The baby's a young adult now.
I was going to say.
But you know what the craziest thing was, Kyle? They found the wife. She was at the watch house. She got pulled up drink driving, coming back. and so he could have harmed his baby and himself over that.
Over nothing.
Over nothing. She'd gone and seen friends, had something to drink, was coming back, and So that was one time I just was like, everyone was saying no, I just backed myself and went and did it.
Isn't it? Well, I always say this, it's funny, but it's not funny, but it's so to hear like those stories, like you said, you've backed yourself, you've put that on the line, you've basically defied the hierarchy.
But look, it could have gone bad.
It could have gone very bad.
It could have gone bad, and I would have been in strife for doing it, but it didn't. And
but I think that's the thing, and I'll go back to right at the start of our session. You were just always, and I think it's just it is in your nature. You're just always such an approachable guy. And I mean, like back, no disrespect now, but back when you were in the 90s, when we were at the clubs, you were a pretty fucking formidable looking guy, and you had that awesome skinhead fucking flat top thing going on. Shut up! Stop it! Stop it! It was like, seriously, did we all go to the same barber? But you were still just, and you were the person that I modeled a lot of my doorman behavior off, that you just talked. And whether it was something that you meant to be or not, you gave the impression that no matter who you were talking to, you actually cared about what you were speaking. You weren't fobbing them off. And I think that definitely...
I think it comes back to what I said earlier.
It's an energy.
I really like people.
It's an energy. It's an energy that you have. It'd be interesting, like, so you'd probably never find them, but just what happened to that kid?
That's right.
What happened to that?
A strange thing, but I remember that one, and I always will. There's a few things from my policing career that will stay with me forever, and and some of them are more bizarre than others.
Just things that stick out.
It's really strange things. Like at one stage, I thought to myself, "Am I normal, or am I not normal?" Because things that would
what is normal?
Things that would intrigue me, and I look at it, go, oh wow, other people are vomiting. And it's true. I tell people this story, and I'll say, I went to this horrible incident where a bloke got jumped in front of a train, you know, and I was the first plainclothes on the scene, and so the guy that was the scenes of crime guy was sorting stuff out, and then everything panned out, and they're waiting for the coroner and all the rest of it, and he was getting me to move some stuff around, and he'd done all these photos and that, and he's like, oh, just grab that bag and put that over here and do that, and I've grabbed this bag and I've picked it up and I've gone, what's that? And he's gone, I think that's his head. And I've gone, well, that's heavier than what I thought it would be. But do you know what I mean? I wasn't like, the head. And then I went home and I was troubled by it. I was going, why didn't that gross me out? Why was I thinking, is there something wrong with me? Why am I thinking, oh, that's heavier than what I thought a human head would be? Not, you know, and
But that's just,
it's so, I don't know, maybe, you know, the hunting and the fishing and
I reckon that's
all
definitely
that,
got
you
something
know,
to do with it.
I'm not,
We've got
not
guys in here that if they see somebody bleeding, they'll pass out. And it's like, I'm, you know, maybe my upbringing too, just very comfortable with that sort of thing.
yeah.
It's
So it's not, it's, you know, I think I could easily be a surgeon. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't really, you know, if I was smart, I could be a surgeon. I wouldn't, the cutting something open doesn't really worry me. I'd be more intrigued, like,
Yeah,
so that's
what that looks like.
That's what a diseased kidney looks like.
That's strange. All right, number 9. 3 pieces of advice you give to people that are finding reasons to not back themselves, to instead back themselves.
Yeah. Well, the first one I would say is that if there's a door, if you're walking down a hallway and there's a heap of doors and you don't at least try to see if one of them's open, you get to the end of the hallway and you may not have gone in a direction that you could. And that's been like that with me with life, like the bus thing, you know, like the police, joining the police. If you don't push on that door, you don't know if it's going to open. So my advice is that if opportunities come up, have a look, because don't just go, oh, no, I can't do that. Give it a go. You might actually be good at it, and it might be something that changes the direction of your life or your career path or whatever. Don't be scared to give it a go.
You're getting, like you said, you're 62.
Yep.
You're getting to that age now. I wouldn't go so far to call it the twilight, but you're getting to that age now where, like you said, we look back. Do you look back now and go, I'm doing shit, or have done shit that I never thought I'd do?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't, you know, I worried when I went to the police academy, and people were saying to me, like the guys I was training with, yeah, you should be a copper, you'd make a good copper, it'd be great. I doubted myself, and I was like, I don't think I'll have any problems there dealing with a person, but can I study law? Will I be able to put that law into practice and say, this is why we're doing this. These are the charges that I'm preferring. This is why I've arrested this person, and articulate that stuff. Will I be able to study? I never studied at school. I didn't know what study was.
But you weren't ready to study.
No, and I wasn't at school studying anything I was interested in. You know? So yeah, I look at it now and go, wow, you know, fear could have stopped me from doing that, or you know, lack of confidence to give that a crack. And we come back to Jen. I'd come home and I said to her, you know what, Bill Turner reckons I should join the police and become a copper. How fun is that? She goes, yeah, you should. Really? You know what's involved? No, but you should. Okay. What about if I get to the academy, I'll leave my well-paid, great job, and I go to the academy and I don't make it through, and then I'm without a job, I've lost this job. Well, you'll find another job. All right, smarty. What happens if I go to the academy and I do get through, and then they say your first posting is Thargomindah, and we've just, you know, we're in our own home, we're paying it off, and the kids are at school? Well, we'll pack them up and we'll rent this joint out and we'll get a house at Thargomindah and it'll be such an adventure because none of us have lived in Thargomindah. And I'm like, oh,
why have you got to be right all
why
the
are you
time?
so positive? But you know, Jen was in my corner all the time, and through the wins and the losses, through the rounds that didn't go so bad, there was the encouraging, just like any coach, any cornerman, get back up, try this, get back out there. You've trained for this. You can do this. You get up, do it. You know, and so having that was the thing. You know,
as I always say, it's not what if it goes wrong, it's what if it goes right.
Yeah.
This
And
actually could
you know,
work
and I
out.
went to the academy, and all of a sudden I was like, I love this stuff.
But mate, I was exactly the same. I remember when you told us at Rosie's that you were going to give the coppers a go.
Yeah.
And then when you got in, I'm like, this is just, actually it would have been at the Caxton. I said, this is just you. This is you.
And I never looked back, you know. So it was one of those things. So I'd say, you know, don't look opportunity, don't walk away from opportunities, give them a go. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, that's one of the things. The other advice is positivity. No one can cause you to be negative and positive. That's up to you. You choose, you decide whether you're going to be a negative person. You decide whether you're going to be a positive person. When I go into work in the morning, I could have had the worst sleep. I could be thinking about 7,000 things that I've got to do. When I walk through the door, and anyone there will tell you, it doesn't matter whether I've had 4 hours sleep or I'm coming from a day off. I'll go in, hey guys, how's it going? And I become positive because that's what it takes to make that a positive workplace.
And energy out equals energy back.
Do this.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, it's like, oh, we've got this idiot in here again. You know, this awesome. How's this going? And
G'day, mate.
you know, and positivity and enthusiasm is created by us. And then my advice is, you create that day for yourself. If you don't, if you go into it feeling this is going to be a crap day, it will be. You go in going, no, I'm going to get the best out of the day. It will be. And the last bit of advice for that is something that I had as a little bit of a catch cry all the way through policing, and especially once we were doing that property crime stuff and I got that chance to mentor people. I would say to them straight up, you make your own luck. You make your own luck. There is no such thing as a lucky person.
Yep.
You make your own luck.
Yep.
Some bloke goes and wins the lotto. It's very rare that it's his first ticket he's ever bought. He's bought.
That's a really, really good point.
When I go, here I am, I put a picture up on Facebook. I've got a threadfin salmon. It's 1 metre long. And I'm going, I'm punching the air. People say, man, you're so lucky. Do you know how many times
How many lines
I went out there? Do you know how many times I went over that ground with the sounder looking for the drop-offs? Do you know how many times I went there and went, yep, this ain't the right tide to fish here. This isn't, this isn't the right phase. I mean, I've done the yards and I've made my own luck and come up with that. When I go over to Stratty and I'm spearfishing and I come up with a mangrove jack or a tusky or a big flathead, I wasn't just lucky. The fishing guides didn't shine down on me that day and go, oh, we'll throw a bit of luck.
You're a nice guy.
Throw a bit of luck towards old Kas here. No, I've swam over that ground dozens of times going, that little ledge there might be a spot where a cod could hold up, or, that little bit of flat grass there near the sandy edge. That's a great spot for a flatty to be laying. And then I come back and I keep looking at it. I might swim up and down there 30 times before I've made my own luck and I've got that thing. And it was the same with policing. I'd say to those guys, you can sit in here and you can wait for files to come in and then you can go and investigate those files, or you can make your own luck and be out there turning over cars, knowing your area. You drive down a road and you go, I've never noticed that van in this street
Doesn't
before.
look right.
You make your own luck. And so that's one of the big things in life, make your own luck, and it'll get you through,
Question 10, last one. A quote to live by.
Okay. So here's one, right? And it is important. It's all things are possible for those who believe. It's from the Gospel of Mark. And it says, all things are possible for those who believe. A fighter who doesn't believe that he can win, that doesn't believe in himself, won't win. A person who's starting a business, who's running a gym, who doesn't believe in himself will fail. So belief in yourself is a huge thing.
Is that something that you've always not just passed on to yourself, but like to your kids? Because they've all ended up very different, although they're very much like you. Them learning to just believe in itself. Like you said, Matt's gone from professional fighting, he was very competent, to now he's a fiery, just believing that I can, this is something I can do.
Well, it is. And it's even like with Jacob and his traveling. He just believes that he can do it and he can survive, and he'll make a bit of money here and he'll do this here and he'll do that there. You know, built his own rig, built all of it, the trailers, the boats, everything. He's just got it all. And but he just believes in himself. And the same with the girls. They're very but it's something that you instill, and you need to instill in your kids self-belief, because it's self-doubt that lets people down. You know, it's thinking that you're not good enough when you are. Everyone's good enough to achieve what they want if they want to put their mind to it. And that's an important quote. All things are possible for those who believe. And so
I think it sums it up there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Mate, I still talk about you, and I've said this already, but I still talk about you so much. And just when I first met you, you were already like an enigma to me.
I know that's a good thing. Actually.
You were Kas.
Yeah.
And like when, you know, this is when we got that first city shift, and we'd work at Rosie's, and Kas would, you know, and this is even beforehand when we'd finish work in the suburbs and we'd come in to Rosie's afterwards, and Kas would welcome us and all that sort of thing. And the way we were talking prior about, like, you know, our Zendo Kai crosses and our Bushido crosses and that, the way you would welcome us in, not knowing really anything about us and just being a nice person just because you can, that is still, I think, one of your greatest qualities. And it's probably, you know, don't get me wrong, I can remember times in my mind when shit was going down, you were not a nice person, but those people brought it on themselves. And as I said, you were always there. You always had our backs. And couple that with my gift, I am just still so grateful that after 30 years, I'm still grateful to call you a friend.
Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
No worries, Scott. No worries.
Guys, thank you for watching and listening. We have plenty more episodes. Go and like, share, subscribe. If you are, I'm sure if you like this episode, you'll share it with others. But that's all we've got time for. Kas is going to show me some videos, and then I'm going to relish over this gift, and we'll go from there. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers, guys.